meeting started for ARPA. Today is August 16th. We are continuing our meeting. We met last week. Let's see where we are now. Approval minutes. Tony is working on those for us, so we do not have any. Ed, did you want to add anything for open session?
Yeah, if I could. I was wondering, on behalf of the Lions Club, I was wondering when the next distributions might be coming out.
So that was a question we had the other day. So, as far as ARPA goes, our total allotment's something like $1.4 million. The first tranche, as they had called it, of 720 something or so, came out last year, and we were supposed to get the second half around like June or July. And instead of doing the second half, they kind of did like the second part in almost like thirds. So we got like the first third of the second part, but we still have the 2/3 remaining to come. That being said, when we originally, the select board voted all the projects in, we gave the discretion to the town administrator, David at the time, and then Ryan, to figure out which project to fund in what order, as to, you know, where the money should go first, cause some of the money we had appropriated hadn't come in yet. So even at this point, the projects we're gonna approve this evening, the funds will not be there just yet, because the second 2/3 of the tranche haven't come in yet. But we can follow up with now Sandy, cause I know we had a question from one of the other business applicants as well, when they might see the funds from the town. So I don't have a solid answer for you. Ed kinda walked around the circle of the process, but we can find out when we should expect to, you should expect to receive the funds, but.
Cause I think we were in the first group of filers, and we were in the first half anyways, and
Yeah.
I was just, someone asked me, the Lions Club asked me if I would follow through and see when that might be coming up. So if I was gonna get a time frame, would I talk to Sandy Nason?
Yeah, I mean, or if you want, I can email her and get back to you, but Sandy would be the point person to ask about when they're looking to disseminate the next set. I also imagine it's probably a little bit more complex than just like the town projects, cause I'm sure they wanna put together a piece of paper that, suggests that this is a grant fund and have legal approve it, and I'm not sure, we were kinda hands off with that piece, so I'm not sure what they ended up doing for that component.
We talked a little about this, Ed, last night, and nobody seems to know anything. We're not the only town waiting. Every town in the state is waiting.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about the funds that we've already received, the 700,000.
Right.
And, I guess all of that has already been spent.
So remember, we did the Lombard Road, which was like, what was it, 650 or something of the change?
Oh, there you go.
So that was the substantial part of that, and then we had some other projects we did as well, but we had a lot of businesses, or not a lot, but at least a handful that first round as well, and I know they were still waiting.
Cause I noticed the signs was done fairly quickly.
Yes. So, well, fairly quickly as quickly goes, right?
Is there an existing list of the projects that were approved that have been funded versus the projects that haven't been funded?
So have been in what sense? Have been as in the select board voted to approve them, or have been as treasurer sent out a check?
Treasurer sent out a check.
I do not have said list.
Okay.
Are you gonna be reviewing tonight the new application?
We are, so the first step we have to do once we get down a little further in the agenda, Ed, is we gotta go through and make sure we're accepting. We had 3 applicants where we didn't have all the materials for their applications last time. So we gotta go through and make sure the committee is satisfied with the materials. As long as all those are accepted, then yes, we're diving into discussions tonight.
Is the one from the cemetery commission,
It is. The cemetery commission for the securing and enhancing the beauty for 88150 is on the list to discuss.
okay, maybe I'll stop back later.
All right.
Got a ZBA meeting next door.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Ed. Okay, no one else here from the public. Updates and new info related to ARPA funds. We just talked about funding. We already fixed the scoring maintenance last week. Final acceptance or rejection of all ARPA applications. So outstanding, I have here Plainview Farm. So in everyone's Google folder, I added the additional documents that Keith had submitted for Plainview Farm. is, what's that?
Uh-oh.
Ah.
What are they?
Let's see here.
Did they bring his total up to 30,000?
Let me just ask all these questions, Susan. Alright, woman of many questions.
I am.
Alright, let me pull the folder. I called the folder Keith, cause he had 4 attachments.
Okay.
He attached E, which was the signature page.
Okay.
He attached, hold on. GFA statement here.
Is it that the 816 folder?
Yes. I believe.
Subfolder, Keith.
I believe we had followed up with him for estimate for 2022 because we did not have a whatchamacallit, a projected sheet.
That's right.
How do you rotate these things?
Yeah. You ask a good question, I know not to answer it. Okay,
Alright, here's one for you.
so we have those pieces there. There's one for you. Thank you, ma'am. Alright. So again, Keith, for the Plainview Farm was missing, like I said, the estimated 22. He did give a couple bank statements, a little bit of information on them, with the least interest paid, deposits, and withdrawals to date.
I'm not gonna do his financials for him.
You're not?
No, I'm not.
So, but that was what he submitted for 22. Cause
Okay.
remember, he did submit all of his financials
Yes,
for up to
For
20.
the other period, yeah.
Hello. ZBA next door, same people, different door. Okay. Alright. Does anyone feel like that is an incomplete application, or do we feel like we are accepting that as a complete application at this time?
I will suggest to you that it doesn't matter for reasons to be revealed when we talk about his application.
Okay. So for the sake of.
So what, for the sake of argument, we can call it complete.
Okay.
I'm not persuaded that it is, but as I say, in my assessment, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
All right, this is, you have yours, here is yours.
you.
Okay.
And this can be,
Mike and Chris, you guys okay with that being complete?
Sure.
Okay, so then we had Hart and Hart consignments, so we have that here before us. That was Kathy Molesky, sole proprietor. It looks like she's now asking, the amount is here for $15,000. This includes this is the capital request for the ceiling fans and mini splits. Shows her application, information appears to be filled out. See right here, we have what appears to be, profit or loss from IRS forms for 19, 20, 21, and she has at least a pencil number on year-to-date total sales for 22. Is everyone comfortable with marking this as complete, or are there any
No.
concerns?
we don't have any quotes.
So she wrote the quotes, but I don't think she submitted the backup material.
Correct.
Alright, so what is everyone's thought on this? Do we feel like, we should exclude it, cause it's not complete without the actual quotes, or do we feel like her intent was there and she got what was asked for?
The numbers don't add to 15,000.
Okay. So why don't we put that on hold and we'll just say we'll come back to it anyway.
That's fine.
Alright, and then Parks Commission well pump, I believe that was scanned in.
Yep, we saw that.
For that piece, it was submitted on time, it just missed the packet for a reason or another.
Yes,
Do we feel like we need more information on that?
I did not.
Okay.
That I did see.
Alright, so what I would propose to do here is I'd like to go through the applications, one at a time and just see, actually, I'm not even gonna go through them one at a time. I'd like to start with seeing if we have consensus on anything. I wanna start, I think Suzanne suggested last time we start with 0 figures, to go through if there's anything anyone had 0 on to see if we're all on the same page. I think if we get to consensus on the zeros or get to consensus on the full funds, those are the easiest to start with and off the tables and then go from there.
Agreed, but I think we have a gating item, which is the amount of money we have to spend.
Yes.
The spreadsheet in the Google Drive had the wrong formula in it to add things up.
Yes.
So the grand total, when you add back in the habitat, 25 grand,
Yep.
the grand total that I get is $428,745.74.
Okay.
The other one.
So 428,745.74, that's $2,000.74 more. So I don't think that's gonna make huge differences in anyone's calculation, but we should make sure we don't go above that number.
Well, yeah, I
Could-
mean,
could
we
you
should
say that
use the
number
right
again?
number, that's all.
It's 428,745.74. Okay.
How do I find that, spreadsheet that you put together?
That specific one or the one you did?
Did you accumulate them all?
I did not accumulate them all.
Well, I guess I need the one.
Okay.
428,
Mhm.
745.74.
It's in the other room.
Thank you.
Joint is jumping.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see, going back here for a moment. Alright, so now that we get that number right, I'd like to go through, KP, I'm just gonna email this over to you so you have it in front of you, okay?
That's fine.
Alright, so zeroing out. Is there anyone who would like to start of one of the ones they zeroed out to $0?
I know I zeroed out the, trail,
Okay.
horse trail,
So the open space trail?
yes.
Alright, did anyone else zero that one out?
No,
Okay, so I'll go next. I zeroed out, Here For You. Did anyone else zero out that one?
no.
Okay. Chris, you wanna do one of your zeros?
Well, I had zeroed with a question mark, Harden Heart, but we didn't have the information yet at the time,
Okay.
so I don't know if we just kick that further down the road, or,
Okay, so we'll come back to that. Susan?
Council on Aging,
Okay, you zero that out?
yep.
I
did not
zeroed that
zero
out.
Alright, so not consensus on that. Mike, you gonna bring us in for a run?
I haven't zeroed out anything because I was zeroed out myself last
Okay.
week.
That's fair. Alright, so now let's talk fully funding. Go the opposite way. Mike, was there something you're interested in fully funding?
Jeez. I I'm really leaning towards the small business loss of revenue.
Okay,
asks.
okay. Do you have a specific one?
Not a specific one, each of them I think are fairly valid.
Okay,
They're in the next room.
And,
This is ARPA.
you know,
That's what I'm here
Mike
for.
came
Oh,
for,
you're here for ARPA?
Mike likes
Not
us.
for ZBA? Oh.
He doesn't want
Well,
ZBA.
everybody else was here for the ZBA, which I thought was entertaining.
I
because they're,
feel loved.
they're debating a driveway. We're literally giving out money.
Well,
I would have thought more people would have came to this.
They
I
didn't ask for
wanna, I
it.
wanna be where the money is.
That's right,
Smart man.
that's right.
Alright, so
Yeah,
Jen,
I'm leaning towards approval of lost revenue for small businesses because that was part of the major intent of ARPA.
okay, that's fair. Alright, so for that, let's see, I'm gonna jump over. Susan, what you got for fully funding? One item.
Ambulance.
Okay, everyone else fully fund the ambulance. I did not.
I did.
Okay, so we're not in consensus there. We're striking a zero here. Chris, what do you get for something fully funded?
The walking track, because it was one of the original purposes of ARPA. Outdoor rec was specifically mentioned in it.
Okay, did everyone else fully fund the walking track?
No.
I did.
Alright, excellent. So, now I'm gonna go through the list here.
Is there a
Uh,
cup right
Jack-
in the window then?
Giacomo's.
She usually leaves the cup right in the window.
Here's I wanna talk in a group
You
about-
want talking group?
I wanna talk in the group of lost revenue. asks.
Okay. So you wanna talk specifically
talk
about
about-
Giacomo's,
I wanna talk
Here for
about-
You,
And Plainview Farm.
and Heart Consignment. Although you're
Art
right,
and
they
Hart did
didn't.
not ask for lost revenue.
That's right. Well, they did in their letter, so I was.
Well, they didn't in this.
In the application.
Okay, that's fair. Alright, Susan.
I used a few things, but I settled on what I called the modified Lions Club approach, which was the way that Ed calculated his numbers for
Mhm.
purposes of ARPA. And he basically, what he did, remember that he applied in 2021, right? So he averaged the year's income for 2018, 2019, and 2021. 2020 was when he took a beating. So he subtracted that, and that's how he calculated the lost revenues. I did a modified version of that because we're in 2022 and because it didn't ask for 2018 financials, it asked for 2019 financials and part of 2022. So, and at this point too, I think it would be a fair statement to say that the pandemic and its effects continued through 2021. Maybe
Mhm.
everybody didn't feel it, but I think
No, I think
people
that's fair.
in general felt it. So what I did was I averaged the year's income for 2019 and 2022 on an annualized basis, right? I took the numbers that we've got and annualized them. And then less the average year's incomes for 20 and 21, and then the balance is what you lost. So that's the arithmetic behind it.
Okay.
Using that approach and looking at their Schedule Cs, Plainview Farm and Giacomo, their revenues increased every year. They didn't lose any revenues. Here for You did. And so on that basis, I would not give any lost revenue dollars to Plainview Farm or Giacomo's, but I would for Here for You. And that is my rationale is the formula I just explained.
So my thoughts a little bit different. So I spent a lot of time, and I didn't do that approach, Susan, but on Giacomo's. So it seems like some of these places tried to really adapt during the pandemic, right? So what Giacomo's did is they went crazy, it looked like, on their granola. Cause that was something, you could ship to people, you could market online, you could do other things. If you look at traditionally where they normally were making their money, they weren't making money there anymore. So I guess it's one of two trains of thought. One train of thought is they were very opportunistic, right? And they very well could have likely made that additional money. It would have been profit above and beyond where they already were had the pandemic not happened, because they were already growing that part of the business.
They pivoted.
They pivoted. And the question is, should they be supplemented for, the difference when you take that out of the picture, the granola piece, for the revenue that they would have lost or they did lose from the traditional sources that they normally do. They also actually applied for loan. or for the PPP, they applied for the PPP, like, I felt like these people tried. A lot of the times, you know, some folks said, no, I didn't even apply. Or I didn't wanna take that, but they did try, they did apply. They also said, you know, they ran into some trouble with like being able to capture certain numbers, they are having trouble with stuff with the way, their rent structure is and so forth.
Mhm.
So, but I felt like, you know, they did everything they could, you know, I don't think they should miss the opportunity to recover the lost revenue just because they were opportunistic and kept pushing forward.
But how would you measure that lost revenue then? What do
Yeah.
you think it should be? That's, to me, that's entirely speculative.
I feel the same way as Susan on this, because we have to be able to tie it back to something objective, and if they didn't lose money and they actually made
And
more, then
Yeah,
it was
hair-
efficient
hair-
and
And,
hair-
that-
and spoiler alert, I'm gonna give them their capital,
yeah,
so.
Hair for You is in a different thing because they
There was
were
nothing.
forbidden from
Yeah.
pivoting.
Yeah, there was nothing she
There
could
was
do.
nothing she could do
Right.
to continue some level of revenue.
I did have a question on hair revenue, hair for you and the revenue calculation.
Yeah.
And I seem to have left their application on my desk at home. But I didn't remember seeing any kind of allocated to income in it, and I was wondering if that was figured into their financials.
I didn't
Is-
dig into that, if it's not recorded, I'm not gonna ask.
Yeah. Well,
But,
it's
but I
just-
did get a different, I would say I did get a slightly different number than Dawn did, and that's the
I
number
have a
that I would
copy of
recommend.
Well,
I sent it
Oh,
over.
he already has it.
I know it goes, and I know there's always the risk of opening a can of worms with that kind of question, but I think it goes quite a bit to lost revenue. Just because it's revenue, and it doesn't necessarily appear on the financial statement.
I don't wanna say anything if this meeting is being
Yeah.
recorded. I think that we don't have that in front of us, and that would be equally speculative. But I do get
During the
a
other room.
different number than what Dawn.
ARPA,
We're planning board, I'm sorry, I don't know where we're supposed to be.
probably the other room.
So do we go around?
No,
the-
No, you
Go
go
through here.
through.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry for interrupting.
That's right.
No worries.
Thank you.
So what I was looking on Giacomo's was it,
Is there a question from you?
oh, I'm so
Oh,
sorry,
good,
Mike.
I was just wanted to, Mike Stahl, 5 Lombard Road, regarding Giacomo's, I'm having trouble understanding how and why they pivoted. Unlike a regular restaurant that had to pivot to a lot of takeout because they prohibited from serving on site or inside. Giacomo's, that's already what they did, and my understanding is they were already doing, and that went better for them. They actually increased, so that seems to fall in line with Susan's comment regarding the revenue. You know, it all makes sense.
Yeah,
to
my
me.
point around them pivoting was coming up with other things that they
Oh,
could
sure,
sell
sure.
in order to keep a
Oh,
revenue
no,
base.
I, it's just, having, used them and talked to them, I'm getting like two messages, I guess,
No.
sort of. That was my
No,
only point.
fair dues to them, I mean,
Mhm.
they did really,
No, I was surprised when I saw it. I thought that was great. And and they should apply for the PP loans, and I think perhaps some of our other businesses didn't apply for the loans because they did not understand they would be forgiven. I
Right.
think plus I am aware generally that a lot of small businesses had a lot of barriers.
Yeah.
They didn't have accounts at the right places, and even, I'll call them out since I closed my accounts there. Citizens Bank apparently was one of my friends applied there, cause she has a business. It was a disaster at the get-go.
Yeah, it was.
And so it was very difficult, and based on some of the information we have here in front of us, I am not surprised at all that some of our businesses did not or could not or would not apply.
It was very difficult unless you had relationship with somebody at the bank, like if you were
Mhm.
just walking in off the street,
Yeah.
it's impossible to get through.
That's right.
Like, with the consulting firm, I mean, we had to go to somebody who we worked with for years, and they had to personally shepherd the application through for us to get PPP money.
Yeah.
So it was not easy for people to do. if they
No,
didn't have
no, and then
professionals
to
do it
not,
for them.
not fully understand it and think you're gonna be stuck with a loan. You know, as I say, again, not understanding that
Yeah.
it would poof, it would disappear. So, that I don't hold against them. I was just, in my, asking the questions of our applicants, I was curious as
Mhm.
to what the experience might have been.
I do think what you're saying makes a lot of sense though, because it does give us an objective place to be grounded. And I guess without some kind of alternative methodology, that is the place I would default also.
Well, I don't wanna start looking at everybody's revenues differently now, do I? We already
I hear you,
put
but
a stake in the ground with, the Lions Club.
I hear you, I think the problem is though, every place and every type of business, it's not like we have 6 hair places applying, 6 specialty stores applying where we can apply it across the board. I think each of them is unique, which is the
They
problem.
are, but the financials are all the same.
Yeah.
They-
Everybody's financials are the same, and that's the standard under which
Yeah.
I think we should be looking at these, is numbers.
Yeah, the math is agnostic.
I don't know, I mean, I would, just looking at it, I still feel, and maybe I'm not an accountant, so the numbers don't stand out exactly how to specifically do it, but when you're looking at the number, you know, in Giacomo's finances, if you look at the granola factory piece, you know, that goes from 102 to 128 to 145 to 50% of the year, ultimately being at the end of the year probably around 160, right? So that increases every year, but if you subtract that number over their annual net profit loss at the bottom, you're getting negative numbers.
The problem with looking at profit as opposed to revenue comes best into focus when you're trying to annualize things for 2022. You can't annualize expenses because some of them are front-loaded
Yeah.
and some of them are not, and that's where that falls down. But the good news is that those businesses put in other applications for other things that are largely substantiated.
KP, how do you feel about this? You have yet to opine on this matter.
Lost revenue for Giacomo's. What
Giacomo's?
is, why are they reporting lost revenue if you're telling me they didn't lose any revenue?
I don't know. And I couldn't tell you how the number was arrived at as a consequence.
Maybe they, and just guessing, maybe they weren't taking into account the startup of the granola side. They were just going based on, okay, here's what we sold that year. If that's all we sold this year, it's obviously gonna be less, therefore we've lost revenue. That's just a guess, but it's not how you do the math.
Don't know.
Yeah, we can only go by what the math says, and I'm in agreement with Susan.
Okay. KP, anything else on that?
Not really.
Okay.
My number for Hair for You,
Okay, so
on
hold
the
on.
math that I did,
Hold on one
just-
second, Susan.
okay.
So Giacomo, so it seems like the majority at this point is 0 for the lost revenue.
Correct.
correct.
Okay.
Do you concur, Chris?
Okay. We don't need, we'll take a vote at the end, but
Okay.
I'm a, what do you call it, on the opposite side of that, but that's fine. Alright, Susan, please resume.
I was just gonna conclude my remarks about lost revenue to say that the Hair for You number that I came up with was actually more than what Dawn requested, slightly more. If you subtract out the 15,950 that she was awarded, the number that I got to give her now, this bounce, is $31,445.08.
35 or 31?
31,
Cause she had asked for 34.
I know.
Okay, so your number is what, 31?
My number is 31.
Yeah.
445.08,
Okay.
and that's on my math minus 1590.
Okay,
And then I threw in 8 cents because I had 8 cents left over.
okay, that's very generous of you.
I know.
Alright, Mike, how do you feel about this one?
Well, I'm not gonna go against Susan's math.
It's Excel's math, it's just me putting things in there.
Yeah, but you did the math.
Yes, I did.
And so
What is the math you did, Susan?
I averaged her income for 2019 and I annualized her 2022 income,
Okay.
alright? So I figured out, based on what she reported, if everything was linear, what she would make for the whole year. And then I subtracted the averaged year's income for 2020 and 2021, and the difference is what I came up with. So basically, if you kinda look at her numbers, she lost about 20,000, 22,000 and change, a little more, a little less, over 2020 and 2021, so when you add them up, it's 47,395, and then she already got 15,950, so I subtracted it out.
So
And
my,
it's pretty close to what she asked for.
so my objections on this one, right, and maybe I'm too granola-y. We'll go with granola, cause I call this my granola example in reverse. So if you look at this one, so you have someone who's renting a chair, right? And she's paying them as a subcontractor, okay? If you look at the subcontractor's pay in 19, now this is my understanding is that contractor's likely also paying rent for that chair. So she's making her revenue based on the number of people she has and so forth and the services she does, and then she's paying in addition to that money back to the owner to rent the chair.
Mm-hmm.
You look at 2019, that person's income that was paid from the business was $9,257. You look at 2020, it drops to $6,749. You look at 2021, it increases to $10,041. You look at 2022, halfway through the year, it's $6,000. So this person's income dipped initially, or through the use of the service, and then it started going up. So in the opposite way, I'm kind of looking opportunistic, what's going on here, right? Cause it's not, just that employee that you're paying who rents a chair that you're bringing in the income. Is this a lack of opportunity that was taken by the person who's doing the work? Giacomo's had the opposite thing, right? They said, okay, our income's going down, we need to put more money into the granola, let's build a granola business, we can't go to the farmer's market, but I can sell this online, I can do this, I can't cater right now, but I can do this. This one feels like it's the opposite, where, the employee who, they're making whatever income, set rates and so forth, the income's going up, it goes down and dips, and then it continues to go up. And then it's just, the individual business owners who overall business revenue is what's dropping. And the suggestion would be is that most likely, and maybe I'm making it up and I don't know, right? Maybe I'm making assumptions that aren't there, but that if I have one employee and myself, we're both pulling in revenue for the business. So if the other person's payout is going up, then the question is, am I doing as much business as I was before, or is just that person doing well?
We aren't looking at expenses, this is revenues.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess to me that is part of the revenue piece, right?
No,
it's
it's
just, okay,
No, revenue is what comes in the door. So your paycheck, that's revenue.
I get it, but I guess what I'm saying is if you have one employee who they're pulling in, you know, the business and so forth, and they're moving forward, and they're succeeding through the pandemic, and they're increasing the amount of money they're bringing in, ultimately bringing more people through the business, and you essentially have one person who does some work, someone else who does the work. What's the trade-off? Like, was there a lack of opportunity or a lack of, like I said, it just stands out to me as the opposite of the Giacomo situation where, you know, they went out, they tried to do everything they can. I still think they're entitled to lost revenue. What amount? I don't know. But I think we take out the calculation of the granola and we look at the factors there and look at the change of the money over the 4 years and do the calculation that way. This case, they were already here once before. We already gave them some lost revenue. My understanding last time was they were gonna come back with capital requests of what their actual additional costs they had to use in order to be open during the pandemic and so forth. They did not. They came back more lost revenue. And we're back to here. But again, it's okay. I can be the dissenting voice.
So I think there's ultimately kind of I think this actually goes to my original question at the numbers, is whether or not we're trying to deeply dissect where the numbers come from, or whether we're just relying on what's within the four corners of the sheet. Because if we're just relying within the four corners of the sheet, we go with the revenue calculation.
That's right.
And we keep it simple and we keep everybody at that same level, as opposed to second guessing business decisions made by people during the time of the pandemic. Because I don't think that we can do a satisfactory job of that without going into excruciating depth, and I don't think that's the charge of this committee.
We also didn't do it in round one.
Yeah.
Well, we did ask round one questions and follow-up questions to understand what was happening and
We
so
did,
forth.
but a lot of the follow-up questions are buried in this application now. Cause the idea was to avoid that.
Alright, so Mike, KP, Chris, and Susan, where do you stand with the revenue for lost application for Here For You? Are you guys in support of the 31,44508? Should I be penciling that in, or is there other dissent?
I'm okay with Susan's numbers.
Okay. KP?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna pencil that in. Alright, Susan, Plainview Farm.
Same problem. Numbers went up. I don't know what his 2022 figures are.
I can try to show you. You have to bend
You
your
can just
head
tell, you can
sideways.
just tell me what they are, and I'll.
If
I
it
can
was
do
only
that.
that easy.
Oh, that's right, I already said I wasn't gonna do the financials, so anyway, the point is that they went up every year, so. I mean, and literally, that's what you'd have to do. Unless it is easily ascertainable what the deposits are on the bank statement, which is really the only thing that would be relevant. And even that's questionable, since you don't know what they are for. There's a market in this town for accounting services. Anybody who's watching this, you-hoo, I'm talking to you.
Do you wanna try a look? I say try, cause it's a sideways document.
Yeah, you also need to be careful to not
I
put
also don't have any numbers.
unredacted.
I think
documents.
Oh,
everything's
yeah, there's a
redacted in that.
total.
Yeah, there's
But-
lots of black marks on that, Chris.
This is for January.
So, and then they have one for,
I'm not gonna look at every bank statement.
they only did two.
Well, then it's incomplete.
They did the end of June, so they showed you the difference between January and June. Okay.
There are debits taken from the, no,
Okay,
no, I'm sorry.
so
Accountants-
you're at a no for lost revenue, Plainview Farm.
I am.
Mike,
No,
KP?
Undecided yet.
Christopher?
Undecided, but leaning towards no.
Okay. We'll just circle back to that. Alright, so that's, that, therefore, we're now done lost revenue. Everyone
Right.
good with lost revenue? Wasn't that fun? That was thrilling, okay. Giacomo's Capital, Susan?
I vote yes for the entire amount.
Okay, Mike?
Yes.
KP? Giacomo's Kitchen Upgrades 15039, period, 18.
No,
Okay,
Why not?
because I prorated it.
what'd you prorate it at?
Like 85%.
You didn't do the calculus right, I remember that. Hold on. Times.
13159 is the number I came up with.
I have 12,783.30.
Well, let's go with your number.
13159 is what I have.
159?
But now let me explain why I prorated that and many of the other applications.
Yeah.
Because in my analysis, of what I wanted to fund, I ran out of money. Because I wanted to fund a fire truck which took a big, an ambulance which took a big chunk of our money out. So you have to look at, you know, I think everybody's responsive cumulatively, you know?
That's right, it's a package,
Right.
yeah, I know.
So, okay, so you're interested in prorating it, Christopher,
I was at a yes.
for fully funding?
Yeah.
Alright, so I think fully funding right now is the majority, so I'm just gonna pencil that in.
I also fully fund the ambulance, so watch what else I do.
Oh, we'll get back to that in a minute. Alright, Plainview Farm, gift shop enhancement, capital, 30,000.
I could not come up with 30,000. I
Okay.
came up with 26,450
Okay,
on the documents that he produced, which I am in support of.
okay, Mike?
Well, that's funny, when I prorated it, using my same formula, I
Oh.
came up with 26,250.
Yay!
Okay,
At 26,450, yes.
okay. Chris?
Yes, you were just
Okay.
on that.
Alright, so I'm gonna write 26,450, we're gonna go, we're just penciling it in for now.
Squeeze you for $200, Chris, come
Alright, I'll
on.
make it on the back end.
Alright, fine.
Okay.
It's cheaper by the dozen.
Alright, Heart and Heart, so they did not end up asking for the revenue, they just asked for 15,000 for capital. Susan?
I can't come up with the numbers, there are no quotes. There are financials, what purports to be financial statements are Schedule Cs from the Mass Return, some of which are for the massage business as opposed to the consignment business.
Because she didn't have the consignment store when she.
I don't know.
So the
I
long.
don't know, and then the final 2022 statement is a handwritten note. That's all. The financials are what they are and are not necessarily relevant to the capital request, but we don't have any quotes and the numbers don't add to 15,000. And I'm sorry, but I'm not in favor of this.
So I think she did state in here that during the pandemic, she ended up having to close the yoga business, the fitness side and everything like that, because of people not wanting to be with other people, in person, and she ended up opening the consignment shop as a result. That's why she didn't initially attach finances, because she didn't know how relevant they were gonna be, because she actually ended up going out of business in order.
Starting a new one.
And starting a new one, so a new thing, again, this is, this is the part I find the hardest, again, is each one of these situations are so uniquely different, I have trouble doing a concise way to compare them all, because unlike the other two, again, this person was very opportunistic, right, they said, okay, this isn't working, I need to try something else, she changed the entire way she did something and went to a different direction. And she does not have, you're right, she does not submit quotes for this, but she does try to write the estimates in the application that she submitted today of how much she thought, each of the items would be,
Right,
or her quotes of what she personally got, but she did not submit copies.
For
Yeah,
what it's
but-
worth, she says there's written quotes forthcoming now.
Well, that's too late.
gloss
When-
photographs, we should go.
When I look at it, I want to be able to do something, I want to be able to help, but there's really a base evidentiary requirement, and
Right.
anything, like even if it was a handwritten note from the contractor saying, I'm contractor Bob, this is about what it would cost, just any kind of credible documentation or testimony would get me over the hump, but without it, it's pretty big hump.
I hear ya, but, you know, I feel like people's intentions, I mean, we've given a lot of people in the first round, we gave them a lot of shots. Even folks, this round, I think some people have had more shots at the apple than other people have had. I think she's worked hard to try to do it, she worked pretty hard in a 4 or 5 day period from when I gave her the notice of what she didn't submit. She does detail it out, verbal quotes, 2 mini splits at $6,000 each, which puts it at $12,000. 6 ceiling fans and installation at $125 each, coming to $750. And then and then materials, ramp and labor at $1,500. I think it's his ramp, but, so I feel like it is calculated out.
There's an
Whether-
electric quote for $6,000 in there. So we're already at 18, so I don't know what's going on.
Well, she asked for 15, so I would have, you know, my recommendation would be to approve it at 16. But I think she tried, I think again, the finances aren't going to show everything because she literally went out of business because she didn't have enough customer base. And again, I think she pivoted and she tried to make the most of what she had in front of her, and I don't think we should say no on the capital piece because she tried.
In a business that grosses $1,000 a year, we're going to invest $15,000 into a garage. When we've got ambulances and other things that need doing here, for someone who did not come in to our workshop, who did not know how to complete the form, and could have had a conversation with us then.
Again, I mean,
We did set up the rules at the beginning very fairly,
okay.
gave
I mean, then we've
people
got all
lots
kinds
of
of other people
opportunity,
who would have the same.
yeah, lots of
Right.
opportunity. I'd say let's hope there's another round coming.
Okay, so I'm hearing Susan, no, Mike, no, KP?
No.
Christopher?
No.
I'm the dissenting voice all night long, huh?
Not for long, we're almost,
That's
gonna come-
okay,
we're
I
gonna
don't mind
come-
being the dissent, it's
we're
fine.
gonna come to the stuff you're gonna say yes on.
You think,
I
we'll
do.
see.
I do.
All
We're
right.
running out of stuff, so.
That's fair. Alright, so we're out of businesses, I believe, at this point. Alright, so now up top here, we have Parks Commission, Curtis Field Walking Track. Christopher,
Yes.
50,000. Susan,
Walking track, no, and my suggestion is that they use CPA funds.
are there CPA funds available?
I don't know, but they can find out.
Okay,
I'm in agreement. These are
agreement yes or agreement no?
agreement that they should at least be starting with CPA. I
Okay,
mean, any sort of request like this should have in the application, we have applied for funds via CPA,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because that's where they should, if ARPA never existed, that's where they'd go first.
Right.
And if CPA turned them down, okay, well, now we have something to talk about.
so they do reference in here that they do have the original project was slated at 70,000, they have a $20,000 grant, I don't know if that's, they've informed of, it says, I was just informed of this grant money, so I don't know if that's the application opportunity to apply or money that is in,
I suspect that's a state level grant.
okay. Specifically
And
awarded
I
for
would,
that grant.
and I would expect it was in hand, otherwise she
Right.
would have asked for 70.
Right.
It does say that on the next page, I didn't read that one, where it says that these grant funds were awarded specifically for the walking track. Ed?
Just as far as CPA funds go, there's about $65,000 every year of new money that goes to the CPA.
But how much goes to open space?
I'm not sure of the percentages, that would be considered recreation, I
Oh,
think,
okay,
under CPA.
you're right, I'm sorry,
Yeah, I think 14%, but I'm not
yeah.
that up to date on those numbers.
It usually splits between the buckets, but the question becomes how much is left and how much do they need for the project?
Right, but if they had at least said on the application, we applied for an additional 25 from CPA, then I'd be more apt to say, well, okay, 25 here, and we can call it a thing.
Okay. KP?
Yes, 100%.
So if I read that right, Chris, you were a yes at the 50,000?
Yes.
I was a yes and KP is a yes, so we're gonna pencil that in for now, cause that's the majority. We're gonna have to vote each of these individually anyway, so no need to rush. COA, outdoor space, Mike, what you got?
They did all the work,
Mm-hmm.
got the quotes,
They even have design plans.
right.
They even got a budget amendment. The State House.
I'm leaning towards yes,
Okay.
although I do feel putting a big beautiful deck on this building is putting lipstick on a pig, but that's a different argument for a different era.
No,
Okay.
it's not.
I have that same sentiment, and the way I reconciled it to get to a yes is that there's some stuff
Nothing's
here.
gonna change.
Well, yeah, there's some stuff here where I just default towards trusting the judgment of the people who say it's something we really need. Because like I look at their application and they did an awesome job with the application.
Yes.
They did go very far out of their way to find additional funding. Do I personally think a deck on the back of this building will be a great thing and make a lot of sense? No, but I'm not a stakeholder.
Right.
So who am I ultimately to make that decision? So from an application standpoint, yeah, I think they did a great job, and to me it was like, well, I think it's the same thing. Putting a deck on the back of this building is lipstick on a pig. We really need better facilities overall for a lot of things in the town, but we have to work with what we have, and that's what the stakeholders said would help. So that was how I came around to a yes on it after starting with a no, if that's helpful to anybody.
KP?
No.
Okay, and I'm at a resounding yes. I think they worked really hard at this. They took everything we said last round when this was not a fully baked project yet. They went back, they secured the funding, they've been working on getting donations and so forth. And yes, I concur, it does not resolve the ultimate building issue, but you know, it makes the place a little bit better to live for the time being and for one of our larger populations in town.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can do that, that's wonderful. We don't know what eventually will become of this building. Who knows, maybe we'll renovate it someday, what have you. Maybe it will become an economic development space. Maybe it will become school expansion. I don't know. But I don't think the deck will necessarily hurt at the end of the day.
Right.
And by the time we actually do something with the building, the deck will be ready for, you know, a remodel. So it'll be a little while for that. But I'm at a solid yes on that. So I think, Susan, you had a yes. No, you had a no. You had no, I'm sorry. But Mike, you were a yes?
Yes.
And you were a yes? So that's 3 yeses, so I'm penciling that in. Alright, I'm skipping the elephant. Cemetery Commission,
I don't think we
No, I
should
don't
skip
think we should
the
skip the
elephant. I
elephant. How
think
can we
that
skip
we
the
should talk
elephant?
about it.
Yeah.
okay.
That's gonna make a lot of these other decisions relevant.
So I know Susan, I think you fully funded the ambulance.
I did.
And KP fully funded the ambulance.
I did.
I funded the ambulance with the money I had left, which
How much
was
was that?
$167,095. Well, it's probably 2,000 more than that now. Mike? Did you fully fund zero out or some in between in your mind?
I know ambulances are really expensive,
$350-ish.
right? As someone who had to use one 3 years ago, I'm really glad it was there. Not town ambulance, but different one. I'm leaning towards fully funding it.
Okay,
I think with our ever increasing aging population,
We're gonna fall off the deck,
we're
just saying.
we're gonna fall off the deck. Actually, I
But
think the
only,
building will fall.
but only for 5 months of the year, cause that's the only time they're gonna be.
Oh, phew,
But-
yay.
I think
as a senior citizen, I'm entitled to make fun of this, don't you
I think the building will fall off the deck before the deck falls off the
Well,
building.
that actually was one of my points in terms of voting no for it.
Right.
Is that I don't think the building is structurally sound enough to support
Right.
anything remotely resembling a deck of that size,
Yeah,
just saying.
so
I'm pretty
yes.
sure it would probably be independently supported enough with the anchors and bases and so forth, that, you know, the rest of the rest of the building can go down, but that deck will still be there.
I don't
There's
know
a
if you're
vision.
qualified to give that opinion.
I'm sure I can find someone who is.
These things are tied in, but whatever.
Mike's
give that
raising his hand.
Yes.
Mike concurs.
So I'm contrarian on this one. I went with no, because there's a significant amount of free cash. Because
It's gonna get
there's,
chewed up by the school.
Mm-hmm.
well, I think there's a lot of discussion to have about that too. There's big policy issues on both sides, on the regional school system and on the town side. And, no matter what happens this year, it's still on a long-term course for disaster, but that's neither here nor there. And we're not fixing that with ARPA money. But yeah, I said no to that because I think that money is better spent on some of the other things, and some of the stuff that the committee passed by, like the trail work, that's in our master plan. That's not just something that we're like, well, we should do this at some point. That's in the actual 10-year master plan, which is supposed to be a strategic planning document for the town.
So is our capital plan for our ambulances and fire
Right.
trucks and everything else. Which I submit is a little, well,
Which,
maybe once again, my age is more telling, but I
And you
think is a
gotta
little
remember,
more anxious.
somewhere in the back of my mind, I'm thinking projects that serve the most people,
Right.
right? I think an ambulance is gonna serve a lot more people in this town than a walking track in the woods that I don't even know where it is and I'll probably never use, you know what I mean?
well, there's reasonable people can disagree on issues, that's why we have the votes, but there's the two, there's the walking track which is in the park, and then there's the one which is the adaptive trail improvements to the Malone area. Both of which I think come in under original intent for ARPA, are things that wouldn't otherwise be funded, and that from the free cash standpoint will get passed by. And when we have had CPA money in the past, I didn't have a chance to ask anybody before this, but when was the last time I went to any kinds of purposes like that?
Well, remember, there's each of the buckets of CPC money is specifically allocated for a specific purpose, whether it be housing, open space, rec, historical. I think those are the four, and then the administrative costs, those are minor, right? But those buckets of money can only be used for those specific purposes. That's why last time we argued with using the housing piece for the Habitat for Humanity part, because that bucket can only be used for housing. Like, that's it.
Mhm.
It's the only purpose you can use the money. You can't buy a fire truck, can't buy an ambulance, you can
Right.
invest in housing. The open space, you know, same things with those specific pieces. A lot of towns strategically use those monies when looking at going out for a land grant or other type of grant where they have to cough up some of the money ahead of time. They save it over time in CPC and match it up as matching funds. I know you did not ask that question,
Yeah.
but I figured I would provide that information anyway because I thought it was helpful. And Ed has a comment. Thank you, Ed.
Well, just from being in town for a long time, this town is not known for doing overrides for anything
Right.
very much. If I ever thought there would be an article that probably would be successful for an override, would probably be an ambulance.
For capital.
I don't have any oar in the water just that, you know, I think that, you know, I don't know what condition our ambulances are in and how,
Well, I think that's ordinarily a debt exclusion, isn't it, not an override?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it would be a debt exclusion.
We could
But-
do a debt exclusion, or you can do a capital override, so
Yep.
capital override is like a Prop 2.5 override, but it's a 1 year, everyone's money, everyone's taxes go up for a certain amount for that specific purpose once and it's done. Debt exclusions are usually for the larger projects, for like a building, or when you couple things together for 5 to 10 years, you're going out for those, but capital exclusions do happen.
Do you
No,
ever
it's-
combine, ARPA funds with the town capital account in order to do something, or?
Well, I think that
That's the intention here with
Exactly.
this, the 250 isn't enough to buy an ambulance.
Right,
That's,
It would be about
that's
Yeah,
what
it's
they're
350.
that would finish the
350,
the amount
Yeah,
they
they're
need.
insane.
ouch.
And, you know, I don't know how many of you, I know a couple in the room here were at the meeting last night, but Ryan laid out a pretty good plan and scenario about, yeah, I had approved this before the meeting last night, but, he just confirmed my decision to fund this 100% with his future-looking presentation. He did a little future-looking presentation last night about freeing up money for future projects and taking care of current projects with some of this ARPA money, and this was the example he used was this ambulance, so. It made sense to me at the time. I can't exactly reiterate what he said, but
Thank you, KP. Alright, so I'm hearing that Susan, Mike, and KP, you guys were at fully fund ambulance? Is that what I heard?
Yes.
I am.
Okay, so majority, I'm just penciling that in, so we can start somewhere here. Cemetery Commission, Secure Cemetery Enhanced Beauty, the request was for $88,150. I'm happy to share first, I thought this was, you know, a good project to fund, but I wasn't as comfortable funding the really expensive vinyl, so I put in for $20,000, so at least it's enough to get the black link fence and so forth throughout that. That was my start. Anyone else wanna go?
X,
KP.
0 funding for that.
Okay. Mike,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear which one you were talking about.
cemetery,
Okay,
cemetery fencing, enhancement. I said 20, KP said 0, Mike says,
well, it says 88 here and you're saying 20?
I would partially fund it at 20, yes,
He
covering
broke
the
it
cost
out
of
for
that.
different
Okay, right.
line items.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with partially funding at 20.
Okay. Susan,
I partially funded it at 67,000 to pay for the most visible Route 68 fencing, and I suggested CPA funds for the
Balance.
rest.
okay. Christopher, I'll circle back, Ed, give us
Yeah.
a sec.
Well, I'm open to some kind of funding. I have kind of a similar situation that I had with the Council on Aging. Is that is vinyl on all the locations necessarily the right thing? But that's not really our scope.
It's just on
and
one
that We just
location.
kinda have to trust our stakeholders on it. So I am certainly open to partial funding in some form.
Okay.
I didn't have a number yet.
Ed?
Well, first of all, I was involved with this project, about 3 years ago, and we applied for CPA funds. And, they were not allowed because, believe it or not, the cemeteries aren't historic.
What?
I know, that's what I said.
Ugh. Says who? Says who?
Well, according to
CPC.
the State Historic Society, one of the cemeteries is considered historic,
Yeah.
but they don't call the fence part of the cemetery that's historic. So we got shot down from CPA funds because
Alright.
I really felt that would be a great use of them, and, you know, I mean, we got this town looking a lot better now. We got the town common, which,
Yeah.
has never looked better. We're gonna have the church, after it's vinyl sided, you know, that's gonna be in great shape again, and
Yeah.
I guess the last eyesore coming in is the cemetery.
Right.
This project, I helped the, cemetery commission put forth. It is broken down by cemetery. The other cemeteries, other than the ones on Route 68, could be done with, granite posts with black chain, and they would really look well.
Yeah.
The one on 62 especially, I mean, the one, Forest Glen, which is on the top of, Williamsville Road, that has a wooden fence right now, and, what happens is, it's in bad repair, and the highway department, when they plow, they just plow snow on top of that fence.
Yeah.
So that's why it's in such bad repair, so I talked with Travis about that, and, that's why that fence, instead of going back to what we had before and trying to duplicate it, we would change that over to be cement post and chain.
Right.
And it would look according to the period of the cemetery, but also wouldn't require any maintenance in the future.
Right.
We've spent a lot of money on painting that fence. I think I got involved the last time they were gonna paint it, it cost $12,000, even
Oh.
even using
Oh.
volunteer labor,
Oh.
senior labor, it cost $12,000 to do the fence, and I said to him at the time, you know, you take old wood
Set it on
and you
fire.
can paint it, and the life of it's 4 to 5 years before it looks like it does again now, so painting isn't an
By the time
option.
you're done prepping that wood, it's gonna fall apart.
Yeah,
Lipstick on the pig returns, it sounds like.
Indeed.
The return of lipstick.
Indeed.
I guess
but
my
that's
question.
65,000 of the, and
Yeah.
here again, I think that if these were put out to bid, I think we probably would get bids lower than that, but, that was from that quote was directly from, a fence company
Mhm.
who is in town and, knows his pricing very well.
Is that the company that did the other vinyl fence that's there?
I am not sure on that.
That
tell you the
really
truth.
nice looking vinyl fence?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
this vinyl fence would be exactly
I
to
know,
match the
yeah.
other vinyl fence.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
The part of it is, one of the cemeteries, Brookside, which is the one furthest north on 68, never had a fence.
Right.
So this is not just replacing the fence on Evergreen and,
Mm-hmm.
and,
The other one.
the other one, Riverside, and, but,
I think my question on it, what my hang up was whether, and you might be able to answer this, is whether or not the vinyl panels are really durable enough for municipal use, where they're gonna be near where, not too far off the street, there might be people hopping over them, but whether or not they're really durable enough for it.
I think they'd be more durable than the wood fence that's there now. Yeah, they're all cement posts, every 8 feet. And, that vinyl that they have down there now is high quality, thick vinyl. I think that, I talked with, Paul Sweeney, because I wanna make sure that maintenance wise, you know, we set them up high enough so that you could weed whack underneath them easily.
Yeah.
So that, you know, that would make it easier than what they're working with now. There's some pluses to it, but here again, I understand ARPA funds and you only have so many to use, and it's, you know,
Yeah,
got a
but
lot
you
of
come
projects to do.
driving in, it's one of the first things you see coming in, and it's pretty shabby
Yeah.
currently.
To me, this strikes me more as something that the town should be responsible for every cemetery we should try to make them all look similar, and we may even wanna budget some money for this, you know what I mean? This is something that, it's gonna be an ongoing project, it's gonna require maintenance, you know, how many cemeteries are there? 5? By the time we get done with the 5th one, we're probably gonna need another one, you know what I mean? It seems like we all know we have a fence person in town who would probably be more than willing to work with us, give us the best deal we're gonna get anywhere. I just don't think it's a one-time, I feel like it's continuing, and these ARPA funds are one time, they hit us now, we got big time needs. I think the cemetery should just be rolled into our budget somehow, some way.
Yeah, ARPA should
Annual
not be
fund.
enabling us to get things that we can't afford to maintain.
Good point.
Well, I thought the
I would
point
be-
is that you don't have to maintain these.
Right.
I would just comment that, I don't think there's gonna be a lot of maintenance involved going forward. The granite posts, they don't require any maintenance at all. The black chain is, powder coated, and because of that, that will hold up long term. Vinyl fencing, before you'd have to do anything, 20 years, I don't know, you
Power wash it, that's all.
you
Yeah,
know,
you might have
it
to
can
do
be,
that.
I think it can be taken care of, you know, could it get dirty? Well, you could probably power wash it a lot quicker. Could probably power wash it in 2 days, the whole length of the fence versus painting it. But, you know, I understand the economics of what you're working with, I'm just here to answer any questions you might have that I can help you with.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Alright, so let's see, I have here Susan was at 67, I was at 20, KP was at 0. Christopher, have you come to a conclusion?
What was the 67 based on?
It's for the Route 68 projects.
It's for Route 68 Cemetery and the Green Rural Glen in Brookside. The 65, which is the paneling, and then the,
Yeah, I would
8-foot gate.
I would support that.
Okay, so you're at 67, I'm at 20, and again, I mean, if we were, I guess I like the black chain fence, it's less expensive, right? It still looks nice, if you talk to a lot of the historical district, historical commission folks, you know, when replacing something, they like the black historic fence, cause it, you know,
Yeah, but we've already got a vinyl
ties
panel
in.
on the other, on the one.
But still, I mean, and I'm a huge proponent of that, cause guess what you don't have to do with the black chain link fence, you're not pressure washing that, right?
Right.
It just, everything passes through, you might have to declog the
Maybe,
bottom of it
maybe on some of
leaves.
the other smaller cemeteries, we might be able to do a fundraiser from people who are buried there to do the smaller ones, I don't know.
So Susan, Chris, you guys are at 67K, I'm at 20K, KP's at 0, Mike, where do you land?
I'm going to split the difference between 20 and 67 and
So you're
say,
gonna be at 43.50,
sure.
43.5? Fantastic. KP, are you hanging out at 0, or do you
Yes,
wanna modify
0.
your thing? Okay, so we can't decide on this one, cause I got 4 different options here, no majority. Alright, next one I have down here is town administrator scanning town documents. So as I understand it, the town administrator's office had applied for a state grant from Community Compact for IT. They were awarded that grant to scan in and store, searchable, recordable records that also will be eventually accessible to the public. It is an annual, cost for the subscription to the service. I believe that annual cost is about $10,000 a year, as I understand it. This is to finish the project. There were still some remaining funds, but they, as you can imagine, land use and building has quite a few documents, so they wanted to finish the project if they could all at the same time. And to do so, the quote, and it was very specific as to the number of sheets of paper, turned out to be $13,611.05 to get the job done. Susan,
Yes.
okay,
Oh.
Mike,
Sure.
KP,
No, 0,
Kristen.
Why?
cause we have a surplus coming this is a one-time project and we have a one-time surplus coming this year,
Surplus in what?
town budget,
Oh, man.
as described by Ryan last night,
Oh, you're talking free cash,
for cash.
okay. Keep,
The
yeah,
hell with next year.
yeah, Chris,
Yes.
That's already been spent
Alright.
17 ways to Sunday.
Exactly.
alright, I'm also at a yes, so
the
majority's
by
gonna
school.
stick that one in. Ed,
Just, so I can leave.
you wanna leave?
Yeah, will that be revisited, because you have at least a majority for 20, but, will that come around again, or?
So it all depends on where we land at the end of the night, so it's 7:33, Ed, we have 4 more things to finish up, or 3 more things after that one to finish up, and we're currently in the hole $17,800
Yeah,
before we
we're
finish.
already over.
Without accounting any money for the cemetery.
So
That's
that's
right.
almost like saying this is gonna not fly.
I'd say the probability is lower that it's gonna land on the docket, but only given the fact that of the projects where there's been a majority to fund, we're currently, like I said, funding to the penny of 428, 746. I did not add the 74 cents, Susan, so we will be off. Gives us remaining balance right now based on majority for these things so far at $17,800 in the hole. So we're still gonna have to go back and modify decisions, and that's not even taking into consideration the town center trail improvements or replace well bank.
Thank you.
So maybe not this time, Ed. We'll see. Okay. Alright, so let's see, town center, is $20,000. Mike.
Oh, what happened to
Oh,
the
sorry.
microfiche? What happened to that?
Oh, that's the one, we just did that one. That was
Well,
the
no, but
scanning.
I was distracted with that,
Oh,
so what did
four-
we decide?
4-1.
That's in?
Was
Okay.
13,611.05.
All right.
Majority rule said stick
Alright,
it in.
no, that's fine.
I am still struggling with why we're paying town center project stuff out of ARPA money, so I would
Okay.
say no, and it should be funded out of, the town budget.
Okay. I'm also at 0 on this one, but my reasons mostly because it's been one of these projects that we've gone back to the voters several times. We've already come to ARPA for money for this project, and I think if we need more money, it needs to go back to the townspeople so they know what the cost of the project actually is.
Yeah, this is starting to get a little out of control.
KP,
Yes, 100%,
okay, you're in, not out.
I'm in,
Okay,
I'm
Susan,
in,
Christopher,
20,000.
I was in.
you're in. So 3-2, Mike. I'm throwing it in for now to put us in the hole by another 20,000. Open Space Trail Committee, 60,000. I would say I think this is a wonderful project. I think it's excellent that they're looking at ADA accommodations and making it accessible to all. I do not know, to KP's question, how many people would be able to take advantage of this. I also do know, for some reason, if we're unable to approve this or approve it in its entirety, there are ADA funding available, a state grant, currently due, I believe, in September, for these types of projects, and I think they would be very interested in things that are outside the normal box of build me a ramp, give me a button. So, that being said, I say 100% 60,000. Christopher,
I would say yes to 100%, because it's right square in what we're talking about, the master plan. There's a very good predicate of if you build it, trail users do come. All you have to do is list it on trail corps and all trails and all those services, and it'll service people in the community and bring people into the community. Those green lines on the map are like a magnet for pulling people into town, so
Okay.
I think there's a lot of value to it.
okay, so you're a yes. Susan,
In my package scheme here, this was a partial fund, and my recommendation was to use CPA funds for the balance, but now you're also mentioning these ADA grants, which is also excellent. I came in at $5,200.43.
okay. Mike,
Yes,
yes fully?
yes.
Okay, so we got 3 guesses, so I'm penciling in 60 for now. And the last one we need to talk about at the moment is going to be down here. at Parks Commission, replace well pump, $9,000. I was a little sad to see that, you know, she did say that this went at the end of June. Susan, you didn't get a reserve fund request for this, did you?
No,
Okay.
and my recommendation is that they put in a FinCom reserve fund transfer request, and I say no to ARPA.
Okay. Mike?
My notes say here, no application.
It came
It
in
was,
electronic.
it wasn't in the pile when we got it, it was,
Okay.
it was misfiled, so
Okay.
it did come in.
Oh. But you're suggesting that it should be coming out of
I'm
where?
saying that FinCom, that she should submit a reserve fund transfer to FinCom.
Yeah, this is
That's exactly
this
the
is
type of
normal
thing that-
operating procedure money, not
Yeah.
not
One time.
let's help out the town money.
Okay.
So no.
KP?
Fund it 100%.
Okay. Christopher?
I would normally be at a fund at 100%, but it sounds like there are a high likelihood alternative funding where it just will be funded. Am I correctly understanding that?
Yes, you
So it's not like the nebulous, throw it to
It's
community
just-
preservation, maybe they'll
No,
fund it.
it'll come
This
to
will get
FinCom, and
funded.
it'll get taken care of.
So, because of that, I'm a no.
Okay, so majority there is a no for that. Alright, well, my computer stopped working. So here's where we are, folks. It is 7:39 in the evening. We started our budget at $428,746. Our remaining budget is in the hole by $97,800. For a review, these are majority on each of these individual items. These may change if everyone has to vote on things together, but what I'm thinking, let me read them through real quick. Giacomo's Gourmet Foods Kitchen Upgrades Capital, $15,039.18. Parks Commission Curtis Field Walking Track, $50,000. Council on Aging New Outdoor Space Deck, $60,000. Fire Department New Ambulance, $250,000. Town Administrator Scanning Documents, $13,611.05. Hair for You Lost Revenue, $31,445.08. Town Administrator Town Center, $20,000. Open Space Committee Trail Improvements, $60,000. Plainview Farm Lost Revenue, $0. Plainview Farm Gift Shop Enhancement, $26,450. Heart and Heart Consignment, $0. Parks Commission Replace Well Pump, $0. So that's where we're currently at. That did not take into account Cemetery Commission, but seeing as there's no consensus currently on the Cemetery Commission, I'm just gonna leave that one blank for the moment. My suggestion to this group, as much as everyone loves each other and wants to come back, I do think we should go home tonight, think about some of these things, and come back next Tuesday and make final.
I will not be with you next Tuesday.
Will you be in Canada?
I will.
Kanakistan.
I will.
If we give you a
It'll,
Zoom link that
that.
works and that attaches to the agenda, will you click on it?
I will, and I will be drinking. So I'm just gonna tell you now.
Even
Oh,
better.
so it'll be
That'll be-
entertaining.
And I'll have an audience.
I would like to make a request because I
Okay.
think there's a couple things here that maybe it's different because of where free cash is ending up. Like with the microfiche
Yep.
and that kind of stuff.
I don't think it's
Where-
microfiche, it's Laserfiche is the company,
It'll
we don't do
always-
microfiche
it'll
anymore.
always be microfiche to me.
Okay.
The fishies.
But I think there's some stuff like that perhaps there's certain there's now funding avenues that were hypothetical before, but now are some certain, and that if there's an opportunity for that to potentially be withdrawn or be funded in an alternative way, we need to at least ask the acting
Interim TA.
interim TA where that's going and what the thoughts are, cause if we can pull some of this stuff off without ARPA just kinda ending up being a dumping ground for lost projects and misfit toys, and that way we can focus on some of the real more meaningful things as opposed to some of the things here that really are kinda maintenance like that.
Doesn't the Laserfiche project help get stuff out of the library? Did I read that
It's
correctly?
wherever it's currently stored, so
Right,
if
but I
it
think
is.
it's the
We can't, we
library.
can't do anything with the library until we get town offices out of the library.
I know, but one of the other things that is would be clogging it up would be papers.
Yes.
They have to live somewhere too, so.
Oodles and oodles of hard copies of documents.
But I know it's tough with the way we have an interim there and the way we don't have anybody in land use yet till the 22nd. But maybe there's a conversation there that can happen outside of this room that will moot what happens in this room.
Well, I'm happy to make a phone call, to Sandy and get an update and just talk with her about the availability of alternative funds for each of these pieces and be able to bring back everyone an update as to what sources are realistic and which ones are not for alternative funding, if that's helpful.
I think that would be super helpful.
Okay.
Because it's easy to look at some of the stuff and be like, oh, well, there's alternative funding here, but with the exception of the well pump where we have a representative of the finance committee right here to be like, yeah, that's exactly how that works. It's tough to just look at it and just say, well, we can just bucket that somewhere else, so it would be nice to have either her present or some kind of report back on that.
Okay.
Had I known we had $9,000 that we could use for this well pump, that would have changed my decision about it.
So,
Well, now you know.
reserve
To Chris's
funds,
point.
Well, now you know.
so every
Right.
year, there's money put aside in FinCom's budget for
Can I
the
put in
reserve
a motion
funds.
for $4.95 for a couple of fly trap thingies?
It's,
Please.
Just
the
swatters.
seniors' fault over the weekend,
Ugh.
they were opening the doors.
See, and what do you think a deck is gonna do?
We had swatters last night, just to saying,
But
It's gonna be a nice view from that deck too.
but the reserve fund anyway, so it's for emergency unanticipated expense.
Like this when stuff
Yeah.
It
breaks.
would have been perfect.
Right.
And it would have been perfect to do at the end of the year, so we
Right.
weren't jumping into the reserve fund at the beginning where we don't know what's coming for the next 10 months.
It's alright.
Yeah.
It's alright.
Cause there's, we all know this because we all work in different parts of it. Municipal finance is really complicated. And it's tough to really have like that full big picture of how every aspect of it works. So I think if we reach out to some of our stakeholders again, a little bit, are you really sure? Maybe we can do some damage here.
Okay, so I will reach out to Sandy and see what I can find for additional information to report back. Susan will be MIA in Canada next week, so hopefully she won't be lost. We currently had planned on doing our continuation of deliberations next week, in the event that this week was not the resolved piece. I think that lines us up for the next select board meeting the Monday after, which is I think why we did it that way, so we could have a resolution. And get
That's
things
right.
moving.
Yeah, we lined it up that way.
That being said, what is the feeling of this committee? Shall we convene next Tuesday? Do we want a little bit more time? How do you all feel?
I cheat off of Susan's notes all the time, so if she's here, that would be really helpful to me.
I'm not going to be here though, I'm going to be.
She's gonna be on
I'm-
Zoom.
I'm going to
I
be
know, that's
elsewhere.
what I'm saying. She
I'm gonna
won't
be
here.
elsewhere,
He wants to
having a
push. He wants to
margarita,
push.
I'm probably gonna be having scotch.
Yeah.
Mike and KP, where do you feel? So here's the good news, right? The good news is, of the $700 and something thousand that we are supposed to have in hand, we only have about 240,000 of it, and not the entire 700,000.
Mm-hmm.
And right now we have about $400,000 in projects, which is approximately the amount of money we're missing. So even if this group was to currently approve the project and submit it to the select board for their recommend it to the select board for approval, and the select board to approve it in a week from Monday, unless something miraculous happens and the money comes in from the government, we can't spend this money until we have this money. So
Get
if we
that
wanted to push this off a week, we could theoretically do that without putting anyone behind the scenes, because they can't spend money we don't have.
We should do that.
I agree.
How do you feel about that?
Of course, but I don't understand your numbers.
So we got in, we were budgeted for $1.4 million from the federal government,
Agreed.
right? We got 730,000 or whatever it was
Agreed.
last year. We just got another 230,000,
Agreed.
which leaves us approximately, around 500
Five, we're
left
waiting
that we
for
don't
So
have
that's the
yet.
number we have in front of us?
Well, no, the
Or
amount
is
of
that the
money
number
we're
we just
missing.
talked about?
So the amount of money that we're missing in our bank account is still more than the amount of money that we have for
Available to
expending
spend.
today. But what I'm saying is the money's not in the bank account yet.
Right, I understand.
So if we have funded these projects,
So
even
if
if
we
we
fool
recommend.
around, we're not hurting anybody, cause we
Right.
don't have the money anyway.
But we can't fund every one of these projects 100% with the money forthcoming.
Well,
Correct.
that's right, that's right,
Correct.
that's right.
Correct. We only have that $428,000 and some change.
But everybody
And how
wants
much
to have
did we
the
talk
food.
about tonight?
Well, as of right now, we're currently in the hole about 100,000.
Huh.
So what I will do is it's currently, I'll just rename it, it's currently ARPA checkbook revised at meeting. So everyone will see this and have access to it, it has the numbers of what majorities were on each of these segments, so you can see them. So that being said, Susan, when are you back from the Northern Territories?
I am back Sunday evening, the 28th.
Okay, you're back the 28th. How long is that? Like 2 weeks? I can't do math at all right
Darn close. Yeah.
now. Okay, so almost 2 weeks.
Yeah,
All right.
'cause this girl needs it, can't you tell?
So that following Tuesday would be what, the
30th.
30th?
Oh, don't do it on the Tuesday, can we do it like on the Wednesday or something?
What's the date on that
Oh,
Wednesday?
don't do it on
31st.
Wednesday. Is that Wednesday the second or fourth Wednesday
Cause
of the month?
Monday and Tuesday are gonna suck, right, cause we know
If it's
that,
the 31st, I
I'll be
think
in
it'd
the
be the
mood
5th.
for you by Wednesday,
Is it the fifth Wednesday of the month?
it might be,
The 27th is a Saturday.
yeah, 29th is Monday.
There's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the 5th Wednesday of
Woo-hoo.
I'm available.
So that would be Wednesday,
the
31st.
31st.
August 31st. Everyone's good with that?
First
And-
Wednesday is now planning board.
Wednesday, August 31st, and 6 o'clock appears to be impossible for me. How is 6:30 for folks? Is that okay,
Sure.
KP? Mike?
Sure.
Susan?
Yeah.
I figured.
30.
Alright, so 6:30, Wednesday, August 31st, 6:30 will be our next meeting. I'm gonna work with Sandy and see if I can get some more information on some of these applications pertaining to potential additional funding that may be available. It is already currently in your Google Drive, the breakdown that we have majority on each of those numbers, start thinking about it. We are still $91,000 shy of enough money to fund even what we've currently penciled in by majority, so we will have to make modifications, or hopefully some things may be funded elsewhere. Okay, that being said, is there any other business not anticipated by the chair? KP?
No, I'm good.
Excellent. Alright, can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion to
Second.
adjourn,
Second.
made, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
We conclude at 7:50 PM, thank you very much.
Mike, you wanna